A historic Hurricane Michael continues to push its way north after lashing the Florida Panhandle. Destructive winds tore Panama City Beach, while Destin just saw heavy rain. Michael smashed records, making landfall as the strongest Category 4 storm to ever hit the U.S.
What a day for our neighbors to the south. And you can see on this radar shot, the storm is moving northeast into Georgia. And in the last hour, experts did downgrade it to a Category 3 storm. We're going to head right to the Weather Center with Chief Meteorologist Todd Howell. And Todd, I say downgrade here, but this storm is still in the triple digits when we're talking about wind speed.
It certainly is. And believe it or not, it's been 120 years since a major Category 3 hurricane hit Georgia. And it didn't come in off the coast.
Yet another bit of history.
Another bit of history came in from Florida. Amazing, remarkable. You got to go back to 1898 since anywhere in Georgia has seen a major Category 3 storm. Wow. All right. Well, let's talk about the very latest. You and Beth, John, we're talking about on radar that making landfall, Michael did at 12:30 Central Time, 1:30 Eastern Time, just to the right of Panama City and just to the left of Mexico Beach, Florida, basically near and closer to Tyndall Air Force Base, and between Panama City and Mexico Beach. And so now it's moving up into deep southwest Georgia, as just to the west of Bainbridge, just south of Blakely, Georgia. Winds actually just updated. They're now down to 115 miles per hour. So warm water, the Gulf of Mexico like a bathtub, is the fuel, the engine for any hurricane. As soon as a hurricane moves inland, it starts to weaken in its wind field. But the problem, it expands. And so you have a very heavy rainfall threat. Thankfully, nothing like Florence because it's fast moving. But also you have a wind damage threat because still powerful winds and power outages are likely. A swath of destruction is still expected into Georgia due to the very strong wind field and down trees and power lines, in addition to flash flooding possible. Again, still a Category 3 storm just to the north of Bainbridge, Georgia right now as we zoom on in. Again, there's the very latest. Still has a center of circulation. The eye's starting to fill a little bit, but this is going to maintain its intensity even all the way from Georgia into the Carolinas, at least as a tropical storm. It will continue to weaken overnight. Here's our futurecast. We do get some heavier rains into the mountains of North Carolina, possibly East Tennessee. Also a cold front moving in from our west as we go late tonight. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Oh, by the way, we got much cooler air. Notice the track, a tropical storm all the way through the states and even maintaining some strength out into the Atlantic Friday and Saturday. An incredible historic storm, Michael, along the Gulf Coast this Wednesday. Beth and John, back to you.